speaking of getting trampled on, Spotify made a massive, huge, humongous bet on
Yes.
podcasts. And we all know the number that they throw around with Joe Rogan. It's 100 million. Who
Yep.
knows how that's broken up or how that's divvied up or how that contract works and what kind of performance numbers he has to hit in order to make the 100. Citibank and analysts from Citi, I guess they're just Citi, not Citibank, sorry. But it
Yeah.
is same, it's a the conglomerate.
Yeah, it's the
Citibank,
same
but
thing.
says that this bet is not panning out for them whatsoever.
It's still two things. It's still early, right? And what was the bet they made? The bet that they made is the same. They didn't just make this bet willy nilly. They made it like Netflix, like Hulu, like all
Yes.
these other platforms. Acquire unique content. I'm going to take the Joe Rogan show. I'm going to take the Kim Kardashian show. I'm going to take these other things that they bought. I think
Kardashians are on Spotify?
Yes, and I think Michelle Obama has her own channel on Spotify. She's unique to
No
Spotify
comment.
now. The point is I'm going to take and acquire this content. I'm going to have it uniquely on Spotify, and if I get enough of that, I can get enough people to turn around and pay for the premium services. The problem is to get to that content is still free. The only thing that you provide by premium services, get this. Because I actually had to look this up. Because I didn't know that Spotify, had a premium service. I figured they did, but I didn't know. So if you want an individual Spotify membership, it's $9.99, $10 a month. And that by itself, your individual, doesn't even take away the ads. Okay.
Yeah, so when I signed up for Spotify when Joe Rogan switched over to Spotify exclusively, and because they offered me 3 months of free premium
Individual, I'm sure it was the individual plan.
So I keep getting the ads. I'm like, huh? Like I thought I paid to get rid of the ads.
See?
And I'll give you another example. I was hanging out with my buddy watching the Conor McGregor fight, and he goes, yeah, I usually will throw on Joe Rogan on my TV because it was on YouTube. And I usually just throw it on and I will watch the video.
Right.
And while I'm doing other things, because it's 4 hours.
Right.
So he goes, his TV has the Spotify app, but the video doesn't work on the television app.
It's not supported through it. Yeah.
It pissed him off enough that he emailed them and they said, yeah, we know. You know, you can just watch it on your phone, right? Or your tablet. And he goes, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Sorry for the technical glitch there, folks. So we're back on it. We were talking about how Spotify and charging for their premium package, and the bet was unique content. Now, when they made those decisions about Joe Rogan and these other people, the investors, being a publicly traded company, Spotify, the investors in 2020, end of 2019 and through 2020, responded positively to this. I mean, their stock went up 31%, and then in 2020 went up another 110%. So the stock investor said, hey, we're on the right track. We like that you're doing this. Right. Now you fast forward that, and the earnings, which is really what it's all about, right? I mean, you have two different things, and we're going to talk about that a little bit with a different question we have on this podcast. But stock is two different things, right? You have this perceived value, and then you have earnings, which are two different things. And the earnings showed that there is zero significance as of yet of the cost of this unique talent, this unique product. And results and earnings, and that's showing more people signing up for premium.
And that is what I'm driving at is, I think unfortunately the consumer has been trained to get content for free, especially what I would call a gatekeeper list, like user generated. That might be a more fair term. And it's really hard to get people to now pay for content. For some reason, we're happy to pay for television, right? Whether it's Netflix or if it pops up on our TV and it's scripted or reality, whatever, we know that we have to pay for that. But I think it's when we came from like radio, it was hard to I think that transition it was hard to get the consumer to pay
Well, look
And
at XM and satellite radio, right? They're
yeah,
still a relatively very, very small in the marketplace. They thought
insignificant
20 years ago, you would have thought that XM satellite radio was the
was the
next
future.
big thing, was the
Yeah.
future, whatever. But they still have not figured out how to get people. I think it's all about the beginning, right? If you start out
Yeah.
paying for something, you expect to pay for it forever. You're fine with paying for it forever. If you don't, if it starts out free, radio, like you said, and then
Yeah.
satellite radio comes out, even though it's a better, more straightforward, niche product, easier to manipulate, right? Most people that I know that ever get on that satellite bandwagon, and I'm one of them, you never get off, man. You never want to go back to regular radio ever. But with Spotify, I think the same problem. They started out as a free service. Now you're wanting people to pay, and oh, by the way, you're not offering them a whole lot to pay. Where versus something like Netflix or cable has always been a paid service.
Yeah, and
Right?
so I would say that enterprise software, when that business was getting disrupted, the freemium model, the Slack, like, hey, you can use that works in enterprise because there's a growth there that the end user, not the end user, but the guy who's paying the bills, the business owner, the guy who you have to get to pay. At some point, he's going to be like, okay, yeah, we like this system. We're integrated with it. We need more features because we need a whatever.
Right.
That freemium model has in the enterprise space works. Freemium to consumer, the problem is you train them not to pay. And then, for instance, it was so hard to get me to use YouTube Premium. But at some point, they had offered a 90-day free subscription. I can't go back now.
Well, and
Okay.
that's what they hope. That's what, look, anybody that gives you a 7-day, 90-day, 30-day, right? They all want you, all these apps that are coming out, that the actual premium apps, CBS All Access, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like they all want to give you that 30 days, especially with the unique content, because they want you to. Here's the difference, though. Again, like CBS All Access, for example, and we talked
Which is
about
called
it before.
Paramount Plus now, by the way.
Well, no, CBS, that's a completely different product. So
No. Paramount Plus. They're combining it.
rebrand it. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. The point is something like that creates truly unique content. I cannot access the new Picard series, for example, unless I pay for their service. Spotify, I know as much as you don't like sci-fi. It doesn't matter. The point is,
No, I like
Spotify,
sci-fi. I just think Star Trek is dumb because Gene Roddenberry was a communist.
Stop it. No, he wasn't. And
totally.
you disgust me for saying something like that.
I
Don't
know.
you ever,
Facts,
ever,
though.
ever
Yeah.
go after. Now, he was a horrible father, all right?
Yep.
Not a great businessman, but damn it,
And a communist.
don't
And
you
a communist.
ever go after the Star Trek universe and what he hoped for our future, all right? Don't. Anyway, I digress. The point is I can't access that information at all unless I
Yeah.
subscribe, versus a Spotify model where I can still get Joe Rogan. I can
Right.
still get the Kardashians. I can still get any of their products, not paying a dime. I
Right.
just don't get ads if I pay $13 a month.
So what I think is perhaps they continue, and I think maybe Joe Rogan could be one of those where it's like, hey, you can always get Joe Rogan for free, but you're gonna have to start paying for all this other exclusive Spotify content. And that the reason that makes sense to me is I think they're gonna continue to lower the paywall, not lower the price of the paywall, but they're gonna start putting more stuff behind the paywall. And you saw written content such as the New York Times and all these other, newspaper websites lower into that where they said, okay, now you can get it, with paid. And eventually they start going to the point where you get 3 free articles or you got to start paying.
Right.
And I don't care to read the New York Times. If it was free, I wouldn't use it to start a forest fire. I think they're useless. But
Well, but how many
that
people
model has
actually have
been-
turned around and pay? That hasn't made a lot of money that way.
yes,
When you have
New York
places
Times-
out there that can aggregate it. Like, they made enough to keep alive.
Well,
but it's not
yeah.
in comparison to what their sales were at one point with print
Well,
media, right?
yeah. So the last 4 years was a good boost for New York Times. Their online subscription.
That's a
But
completely different issue, right?
yeah,
That,
no, but so I'm saying that one particular outlet had one particular
yeah.
outcome for one particular reason.
But that was
Um,
story driven, not consumer
yes,
driven, right? That kind
yes,
of thing.
sure,
But Spotify is going to have, and I agree, they're going to try different things. But
yes,
if they don't get it under control quickly, we all know earnings and how that works with stock price and stuff like that. Netflix has only been able to continue to grow because they've been able to just shove money into product,
yes,
right? Shove
yeah,
money at actors, shove money into
right.
shows and movies and everything else. And because they've had that money, that growth, right? And
And
Spotify's on that edge. I don't know that they had the income coming in from these premium services to be able
yeah,
to just shove money in there if they've even paid Joe Rogan yet. Like, I
well,
think they bet
that's
on Joe Rogan, and I don't
and
know
they
that
don't
Joe
have the money
Rogan's
to pay him.
delivered.
Well, I think the problem, like I said, was I just don't think that he has enough. The problem is there is enough content out there in the universe that if you don't see Joe Rogan pop up on my YouTube suggested, I just forget that I love Joe Rogan. Okay. He's
Mm-hmm.
impacted my life. His Joe Rogan experience has impacted my life in a way that is uh, calculably better because of something I heard on Joe Rogan.
Sure.
Shifted how I thought, whatever. But if he's not top of mind, there's 60 other podcasts that I will listen to and just forget that Joe Rogan's there. But I
Right.
understand why. But I'm just saying so. But to and we're going to transition a little bit into this other story. But our audio is distributed by Anchor.fm, which is owned by Spotify. And when Spotify acquired Anchor.fm, I was doing another podcast on the stream that we're currently publishing, Idiots versus Idiots, and I was concerned about that acquisition because Spotify has had a history of being not so friendly to, I wouldn't use the word alternative. I would just say people who don't fit a very, very specific ideology set, which is projected onto the society as this is what the mainstream normal people think. If you're outside of this extremely narrow position, and so that was a concern for me. But when they brought Joe Rogan over with all of the kind of controversy, he's not a controversial figure.
No.
People talk about him and make him into a controversial figure because
Sure.
it's good content, it's good clicks.
That well, and
That was
sound bites and
actually
stuff like it's easy to take somebody like Joe Rogan and take a sentence out of context that sounds weird. He's not a guy that thinks about every word that comes out of his mouth, or every
he's a
sentence that comes out of it.
comedian.
Exactly. So it's easy to take him out of context. So he's a big public figure, especially with
Yeah,
the Spotify deal. Look, the
yeah,
Spotify deal really, Joe Rogan had already created a great audience, and I don't want to take anything away from him. Big
right.
admirer, like you, have gotten several things from him and just a different way of thinking and stuff like that.
Okay, listen,
But
I
taking the
hate
billion
South
dollar
Austin.
deal,
Yeah, 100 million.
whatever.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
I'm just saying that deal took his notoriety in the new, you know what I mean, to the next
Right.
level. I mean, it gave everybody a reason to talk about him, everybody a reason to talk about his move from California to Austin, everybody a reason, you know what I mean? I can't I watched his show for a while on a decently regular basis, not daily, but on decently. And when he announced that he was moving to Austin and he got this, $100 million deal from Spotify or whatever, his show quickly transitioned into in the short term, a lot more high profile people came on his show really quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of, you know what I mean? Like, and they were all talking about, because that's what he does. He's that kind of
Yeah.
comedian. He's that kind of
Yeah.
guy that talks about what's currently going on in his life, what's currently going on in society. He's that kind of on topic kind of guy. And that's what everybody wanted to talk about. Is dude, you just got $100 million from Spotify and you're moving
And
to
he's
Austin.
never no one from Spotify or Joe Rogan has confirmed that number. But I will say this much: I think Joe Rogan, as a comedian, just wants to do what he wants to do, and I think from Joe Rogan's perspective, going exclusively to Spotify, I think actually takes him out of mainstream news because it takes him out of people's YouTube feed, which is this ubiquitous app that everyone uses, and we're doom scrolling and we're like, can you believe he said whatever? And
Right.
I think it helps him get out of the negative limelight, not that he's created or desired or deserves, but the media around him created because they unfortunately pigeonhole this guy who's like a Bernie Sanders fan as this like meat. And this is truly a bigoted thing. Like, he's this softy whatever guy, but he likes to, exercise and be healthy.
Yeah, so they paint him as some MMA crazed, you know what I mean,
Meathead jock,
Neanderthal,
and he's not.
meathead.
Yeah.
And he's really not. He really does not. I wouldn't say Joe Rogan is. I wouldn't say intelligent, and I don't think he would either. He says it all the time.
No, he's a goddamn national treasure.
Okay, he is, but because he knows he's not super intelligent, he just has, like everybody should, an open mind to intelligence, and he has a weird way of looking at things, and that weird way is a different kind of intelligence, right?
Yeah. So I mean, okay, look, we need to get off this topic because we can talk about our love affair with Joe Rogan. Most straight men can talk about their love affair with Joe Rogan for hours and hours on end.
Why can't it be straight and gay? Why can't it be? Why can't it be straight and gay? Like it can be anybody, Danny. Why do you have to be whatever it is that you're currently being? Okay,
yeah.
So from now on, we're just gonna say, Danny's being.
No, we aren't going to. I'm going to
it.
say whatever I want. This is idiots versus idiots. I say whatever I want.
It doesn't change that you're still an ist. All right, whatever ist it may be, you're still an ist.
Yeah. I will cruise South Austin trying to bump into Joe Rogan because I hate South Austin. Okay, when I moved to Austin, because all of these fancy dancy Californians are moving to South Austin, which is fine with me. I like North Austin. Keep North Austin normal. I like the NWA because, and I call it the Northwest Austin because that's the NWA.
Northwest Austin, yeah.
I like living up there because it's suburban, and I'm a suburban guy.
If you're moving to Austin and you're just a normal person,
move to Dallas.
Northwest Austin is the way to go. All right,
move to Dallas.
If you're Joe Rogan-esque, if you're crazy, that's South Austin, Bubba. There is no North Austinites don't go to South Austin. South Austinites don't go north of MLK.
This is a true story. I have a bunch of family that after I moved to Austin also moved to Austin. I don't dislike them. We're perfectly cordial. We don't have any problems. But they're not like, I don't want to go hang out with them. When they told me they were moving to like Bee Cave, I was just like, I'm never going to run into you. This is fine. You could have moved to West Virginia. It's the same thing.
That's right.
I'm never going to run into you. I literally broke up with my...
South of MLK is another country. It is...
That's another...
You might as well be,
Yeah. And so this true story, I used to date this chick that lived in South Austin, and I shouldn't say we went on one date, and I was driving to go pick her up, and we had been talking longer than that first official date. But
sure,
I'm driving to pick her up, and I get her in the car, and I wanted to take her to Lambert's, the fancy smokehouse, right downtown. And she gets in the car, and I forget how far up to downtown we had gotten, and she was south. And she goes, well, actually, I'm a vegan. I'm not kidding. I hit the highway, hit the turnaround. I was like, you're really pretty, but you're not pretty enough to be a vegan and date at the same time. And you're already in South Austin. It's a 50-minute drive, and you're a vegan. You ain't like, if you were a 7.5, done. Stole.
Okay.
I'm making the commute.
You're being some kind of ist. You're being some kind of ist. I don't know what it is.
But
all right,
I want to jump into this.
Can we get to our next story, please? Your ists are getting piled up here.
Yeah, I know.